Today I'm going to teach you how to make my tomato soup. It is creamy, it's delicious, full of flavor. It can be made on the stovetop or in the Instant Pot, whichever you prefer. I also have grilled cheese croutons to go along with it, one of my all-time favorite things to serve with tomato soup. Now, if you love homemade decadent recipes, don't forget to subscribe, and let's make some awesome. We're going to start with the tomato soup, and while it's cooking, we will make the grilled cheese croutons. Now, you can make this tomato soup in the Instapot, or you can make it on the stovetop. The instructions are completely identical. Saute, deglaze, add all the other ingredients, but in one, you start your Instapot and pressure cook it, and in the other, you just simmer it on the stove. Now we're going to start by hitting the saute button. Now add the sun-dried tomato oil either to your Instapot pot or your stovetop pot. Now we're also going to be using sun-dried tomatoes in this recipe, so I just squeeze out the sun-dried tomatoes from the jar and then I retain and keep the oil to use. All right, now go ahead and add all the onions and some garlic, or a lot of garlic, and give that a stir. And then you want to saute until the onions are translucent. Now obviously they're going to be a little bit red because of the sun-dried tomato oil. Now you can use regular olive oil if you prefer, but I love the extra flavor that the sun-dried oil gives this dish. All right, let's talk for a second about the negative of the Instapot, and that is the dreaded burn notification. Now, anytime that you are beginning an Instapot recipe with the saute function and you're cooking something on the bottom of the pan like that, you run the risk of not getting it completely cleaned and getting the burn notification. So there's two things that I recommend doing. The first one is to use the non-stick liner. That makes a huge difference. The inner pot, it's an extra expense, but one that I have found is totally worth it. And then the other thing you want to do is a really good deglazing. So now that this is all sauteed and fresh, we're going to add about a half a cup of whatever liquid you're adding to your dish, in this case, chicken broth. And if you want to stir and make sure, I like to use a nice flat spoon, that there's nothing stuck anywhere on the bottom of the pan, and then you should be good to go. The reason you want to add just a half a cup of broth is so that you can still kind of see the bottom of the pan as you stir and make sure that you're getting everything clean. If you added the full 4 cups at once, it would be a little bit harder to tell if you were really getting the bottom clean. Once you're satisfied the bottom is deglazed, we're going to add the rest of the broth. Now we're going to add those sun-dried tomatoes. We're going to add salt, pepper, oregano, dried basil, finally red pepper flakes. Now the red pepper flakes are what gives this heat, so if you don't want heat, don't add any of this. If you like more heat, obviously you can add more, but be careful, a little goes a long way. And now for the final ingredient, the crushed tomatoes. Give everything a quick stir, add your lid. Now click cancel to turn off the saute function, and then pressure cook for 5 minutes. Now because this is already warm, because we had it on the saute function, it shouldn't take too long to come up to pressure. Now, if you're cooking this on the stove, go ahead and simmer it for about 30 minutes to really get those flavors to come together, but make sure you use a lid because it can get a little splattery. Now, for the grilled cheese croutons, I'm really just making grilled cheese. So I like to use 2 slices of cheese, or if you're cutting it yourself, 1 thick slice. Butter the outside. You don't want to cook grilled cheese too hot because then the bread will get cooked and crunchy before the cheese has a chance to get all melty in the middle. Let your sandwiches cool slightly just so as you cut them, the cheese isn't slipping around. And I start by cutting off all the sides. And now you have croutons for your soup. You can crisp up these grilled cheese croutons a little bit more by spreading them out on a cookie sheet and putting them in the oven at low heat for a couple minutes and then giving them a stir, but I find that they're fine just as they are, so I don't usually bother with that step. Once it's done cooking, let it natural release for 10 minutes. Open it up and give it a stir. Now it's time to puree it until it's nice and smooth. Now you can do that by scooping it into, carefully because it's hot, into a blender or food processor and running it, or using a hand blender. Now, I went years without having a hand blender. It's actually relatively new for me, and I don't know what I ever did before because it is perfect for stuff like this. Now we're gonna add the cream cheese. Be careful not to let it plop. And puree some more. The cream cheese adds a wonderful creaminess to the soup, but if you don't like that, you can of course leave it out or just use less of it. It will also change the color of the soup. So instead of having a true red tomato soup, this is more of a reddish orange tomato soup, but it's delicious. Now for the best part, we get to try it. Careful, it's really hot. Oh. There's just not much better than a good soup. I love the crunch from the grilled cheese croutons. The soup itself is perfection. I could literally, I think, just drink this by the pot. It is seriously fan favorite, and it's so easy that my kids can make it. My older kids, I have them start making dinner once a week to get used to it before they leave home, and this is a go-to for them. It's just so simple and so quick and so easy. Now, grilled cheese and tomato soup is a childhood favorite of mine. It was one of the weeknight dinners that my dad always made that we all still love. In the comments down below, I would love to hear what's one of your childhood favorites or any other soups or comfort foods you'd like to see me make. Now I'm going to enjoy my dinner, and you should head on over to the next video.